Welcome to Dr. Hannah's Healthy Movements. Today we're going to go over squat training. I'm going to guide you through specific tests and exercises to fix your squat. During the exercises today, we're going to use a mobility band, a resistance loop, and a foam roller. Let's start squat training. Sit back into your hips, your back remains flat, and your knees stay behind your toes, and your trunk and shins are parallel at the bottom. From a front view, you want to make sure that your feet face forward and don't collapse. You have equal weight on both feet and that your knees are aligned with your hips and your feet the whole time. I recommend doing this in front of a mirror to look at your form. Now, if you find that your form is off, it could be a mobility issue, a strength issue, or a motor control issue. And we're going to break down each of these to help guide your squat training. So grab a block and put your heels on a block. If you can go deeper here, then you might have stiffness in your ankles or tightness in your calf muscle. Now, if you find that with your heels on the block you're more unsteady, potentially there could be a strength issue present. Next, we're going to grab a band, or you can use a bar, and we're going to squat with our arms overhead. As you squat down, pay attention. Are you more unsteady? It could be a strength issue in either your leg muscles or your trunk muscles. If you find that when you are squatting with your arms overhead, you can't go quite as deep, it could be a hip mobility issue, tightness in the lats, glutes, or hamstrings. The last test we're going to do is using a foam roller to lightly give you some support. If you find that it's easier, then it could just be a motor control issue and you just want to retrain your squatting pattern. If you found that you had tightness in your calf, then grab a foam roller. You can start with both legs on the foam roller and roll back and forth. If you want to crank it up a notch, cross your other leg over and have all your body weight on one leg. You can also kind of twist to the sides to get both of the sides of your calf. Next, do some ankle pumps up and down and diagonal, as well as circles clockwise and counterclockwise to get all the fascial tissues. If you found that your low back was rounding and your tailbone was tucking under, you might have tight hamstrings. So grab that foam roller, use your arms, and roll your body over the foam roller. If you found that you couldn't go quite as deep into this squat and maybe you were leaning your trunk forward, you might have tight glutes. So again, grab that foam roller and start rolling. If your knees were wobbling outward, then your IT band might be tight. Roll the side of your thigh using your foot and your elbow to propel yourself. If you were arching your low back at the bottom of your squat, your quads and hip flexors might be tight. Use your forearms to roll on the foam roller. If your ankle joint was stiff, use a mobility belt. Here we're using a U-Powex. You can use a Monster band as well. Step through it, crisscross it in the back, step through it again, bring it down to the ankle joint. Carefully step your back foot into the band and make sure it's secured because you don't want to slingshot yourself. All right, get in good position and use your body weight and momentum in your arms to drive forward into that ankle. You can rock into it. Now, what's great about this position is you can also stretch out your hip flexors in the front of the hips. So tighten your abdominals, tuck your hips under. Make sure that your low back does not arch like that. Then you're just moving through your low back. So again, tighten the abs, squeeze your glutes, and feel a stretch in the front of that thigh. You can hold it, or you can go into and out of it for a dynamic stretch in the front of the hip. Now, you can also stretch out your hamstrings and IT band in this position. So sit up nice and tall, straighten that front leg back. As you straighten that front leg back, make sure that you're not rounding like that, because then you're not going to actually stretch out the hamstrings, you're just moving through your low back. You'll feel a stretch in the back of your thigh. Now to get the IT band, what we do is we add a little bit of a rotation. So you're gonna twist into it and you'll feel a stretch on the side of your thigh. Again, you can kind of make a dynamic stretch by rocking into it and out of it. You can choose to hold it. Once we get the hang of this, we can combine it into a triple mobility combo. So sit up tall when you twist, rock forward, use your momentum to get that ankle joint mobilized. Up tall, twist, and forward. Tighten your core so that you're not arching the low back. You can do a dynamic combo for 10 repetitions, 5-second holds at each end, or you can do a static combo where you rock into it, hold for 30 seconds, and do about 3 repetitions. We're gonna do a quadruped rock using our mobility band for stiff hips. Grab your PowX band, your Monster band, really wrap it around a support surface. Make sure it's secure so it's not going anywhere. I use the leg of the bed or the table or a banister. Pull it all the way up to the hip crease. If it's uncomfortable, you can put a towel in between your hip and the band. As you rock back, keep your back flat. This is a hip back dissociation as well as a hip mobilization. So again, keep a flat back to move through the hip and not the low back. You don't want to round like that. When you rock back, keep your abdominals engaged in a long spine. You don't want to arch your back either like that. So it's good to find that neutral spine right in between as you rock back. Now to progress, you can do a bear rock. Lift your knees about an inch off the ground and hover them as you rock back. Keep a flat back again, don't arch like that, and also don't round like that. So this will challenge your core to stabilize your spine in a neutral spine, dissociating it from the hip. You can turn your body 90 degrees to get a lateral pull from the mobility belt as well. Same principles apply when you're rocking back in your quadruped rock as well as your bear rock. We're gonna squat with that mobility band. So wrap it around that same secure surface and make sure that it's not going anywhere. Give it a good tug. You're gonna step into the band carefully and place it around the back of your thighs. You want to step backwards so that there's a little bit of tension on the band. You're going to sit your hips back into the band as you go. Press the thighs out into the band. But when you do that, make sure that your feet don't press too far out to the outside of your feet. To prevent that from happening, step on another band. This is Simple Life band. And push the ball of your big toes down into the band. You can also use a TheraBand, that works as well. Now you've got a good balance between your feet and your knees. Now if you find you're leaning too far forward, what you can do is a kettlebell or a dumbbell, or you can even use a soup can, a bottle of wine, and squat down holding the object at chest level to prevent you from leaning too far forward. Lastly, grab your foam roll, keep equal weight on your feet, knees at the sides of the foam roll, and sit your hips back. That's the squat. Thank you for joining me today. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear from you. Please leave them below. Please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for more to come.